Hello, BookTube, and welcome to. Well, I guess I should be renaming this Science Fiction Daily. I've been doing one now every day, but I've got a lot of books to go through, and I think some of them are interesting and useful. It's sort of also a guide to, I suppose, all this can be a guide if somebody wants to delve deeper into science fiction, and if they're joining us for New Worlds November, which is coming up obviously in November. You will see announcements on a number of booktubes. There's 11, I think 11 or 12 of us hosting. It's started by the Bookish Bryants, and there'll be a number of co-hosts, and I'm one of them as well. And it's themed, but a lot of this material that I'm showing, if you want to, there's a few anthologies that I've been showing, but also if you want to learn more about the history of science fiction, history of biographical or critical material regarding certain authors. I'm hoping this will be helpful, and this one here that I'm doing today will be, because I'm going to be looking at the Anatomy of Wonder. This is a massive tome. This is the 5th edition. It's edited by Neil Barron, and there are over 1,400 very good annotated, basically curated titles of primary science fiction. So the science fiction books by authors, and then there's about 700 or 800 secondary material, like the material that I've been showing on a lot of these videos, and these are annotated as well. And as I say, this is the 5th edition. This came out in 2004, and he says in the introduction that it is the last one. I believe he's passed away now, so it will be the last one. And it's full of essays on the topics that it deals with. For instance, like the first section is a primary literature critical history, and there's 5 essays that go to almost 100 pages, about 85 pages, and 5 essays. So short, but it's a good place. It's a good jumping off place to do. That you get a potted history of that period, plus great references and some really good writers as well. And then we got the complete annotated bibliography here. Complete in here. It's alphabetical by author, and as I say, there's over 1,400 titles. They range, like a paragraph about the book, its place in science fiction, and place in the authors, and it's also got initials because there are about 20 or 25 contributors to this, so you know who wrote that annotation. And there's also a huge section for reference works, as I say, over 700. And there's general bibliographies. Then we go, well, he's even got online resources, but obviously that's going to be dated very quickly. History and criticism, and they deal with a lot of books that are seminal and important works that might be out of date now to a certain extent, but they are important because they were influential. So they are important works. There's many I just see here, like Asimov on science fiction. We saw William Atheling Jr., pseudonym of James Bliss, The Issue at Hand, and then they don't have the More Issues at Hand, so they have one of them. And then we got James Osler's J.O. Bailey's Pilgrims Through Space and Time, Trends and Patterns in Scientific and Utopian Fiction from 1947. And they talk about here that it's superseded by recent scholarship, but because he adapted his 1934 dissertation in writing the book, it was one of the first, if not the first, and very influential in the structure and how people approached the history of science fiction, even though it only goes up to the end of World War One. So it's that kind of thing, and lots of well, a whole number of essay collections and individual books on the history of, and he goes into the detail of these. But you will find that, and as we've seen from the books that I have, which it's only a fraction of what I have of even what's in here of over 700 titles. If you had every title that's in here, 700, that would be a perfect sort of reference library up until 2004 especially, but it would be a really good reference library for science fiction. However, the majority of these are going to be short studies. They cover huge topic. Well, there's three types, I guess I should say. There's ones that cover huge topics in a short book. Then there's other ones that cover many topics and they break it down into essays. So not that detailed a lot of times. And then you got the academic ones that are navel gazing and are very narrow items and very narrow viewpoints. It's like the one that I showed under the Asimov nonfiction stuff, nonfiction books by Palumbo. It's Foundation and Herbert's Dune, but from using chaos theory of how that is written into the story. It's too narrow, really, but I'm interested in it, and I will read it. I'll read two different sections. Like I'll read the Asimov stuff when we get into our new after New Worlds November. We will be doing, or I will be doing, and a number of other booktubers will be doing the Future History Project. It's Asimov's Future History plus other supplementary material that other writers have written. But also, too, that's where all that material will come into play when we do that. And that's where, if anybody's interested in sort of, delving a little deeper, or is interested in older science fiction, not just what you see on the not newsstands, but the bookshelves now. You don't see a lot of old stuff. The stuff is still readily available, and to a certain extent, in used copies, paperbacks, in libraries, and even now, print on demand are printing a lot of early stuff. So, and this is just a fabulous reference to sort of peruse and look. And people have told me over and over, like, why do you have that? Because the internet has everything. Well, it doesn't have everything, and it's very difficult to find, and also difficult to find someone you could trust, sort of with sort of opinions and things like that. Not that you trust everything, or I don't trust everything that's in here, but it's a good guide. It's a good start. If basically, I look at it like for the reference stuff. If it's in here, then there is something to it. But they do miss a lot of stuff. They miss a lot of stuff that should be in here. But again, it's constraints of space to do this. But as I was saying, this is the 5th edition, and I've got first edition, second edition, third edition. I'm missing the 4th edition, which I'd like to get. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned, there's essays in there. And then we look at the 3rd edition. It's not as big like that. This one, page number wise, we go. It's 1,000 pages with the index. And the 3rd edition, that was 2004. The 3rd edition came out in 1987. I bought it around 1990 or 91, full price. I paid for this book here, I paid $80 or $90 Canadian for it then. It was one of the most expensive books I had bought sort of for myself up to that time. It's a lot. It was a lot, but it was a very well used book. You could see it's been used, and even like it's discoloring a little bit from the glue on the end papers there. But I had leafed through this so much, and read bits and tracked down novels to read, and also for the reference material that I got here, I already had a lot of stuff, but I used it to identify other ones that fit into the areas that I was interested in. So it was very helpful. Especially then, there was no, like, the internet was not the greatest for that as well. And it's not the greatest now because it's hard to find. It's like a needle in a haystack. There are some good resources like the John Clute Science Fiction Encyclopedia and Fantasy Encyclopedia that's online now, which is good. But that, and combined with this, is fabulous resource material. And yeah, the essays in here are by different authors. Like you got Russian SF essay. It's going to be fairly short, but it'll be useful. And there's a whole section on Russian SF. So we got this 40. It's about 15 pages, 16-page essay on Russian SF. So yeah, it's short. That's what I was saying, but you then got the reference to expand on it, and you've got good references to expand on it. And they keep and also not only different essays in here, they took out some books and annotated books and added others for each edition, so they each have different ones. And then we get to second edition is this one here, and blue, and that's 1981. And again, different essays and different numbers of books. Books taken out of the first edition, which is this one here, which is 76. Does memory serve me here? 76. Yeah, I remember that. 1976. So you've got different essays for, some of them are the same, but then they're usually rewritten a little bit or tweaked in the later edition. Because in this one you've got Science Fiction from Beginnings to 1870 by Robert M. Filmus, The Emergence of Scientific Romance, 1870 to 1926 by Thomas D. Clarison, another writer I really like. And he's got essays in the other ones, but they're sometimes different essays. And I think this one's reprinted, actually. But I believe there are differences in it. And then the Gernsback area, 26 to 37 by Ivor A. Rogers. And yeah, this was short. This is like, it's 470 pages wet with the index. And then it was expanded to, over 700. In the second, and then expanded again, but also items taken out to over 800 pages in here, 870 pages, and then the massive. I don't have the fourth edition to compare, but and then we end up with over 1,000 pages in the fifth edition. So yeah, and I'll be doing another video. The next video will be another resource one. Will be sort of somewhat revisiting the John Clute's and Peter Nichols science fiction encyclopedia. I'll keep that for the next time, and then plus two other very interesting checklists and bibliographies for science fiction if you're interested in delving further into the older science fiction especially. So I'll end it there for this this episode or this part, and I'll be back again most likely tomorrow for the other reference material. Well, it's all reference material, but more reference material in the sense that it's not like the essays, the books of essays, I call it reference material, secondary material, but that's something you could read from cover to cover if you wanted to. These you don't really read from cover to cover, or the encyclopedia. So take care, BookTube. I'll see you next time.